So the concept of a hook is that every time you have Claude do something, there's kind of like a bunch of different steps within that entire like life cycle. So there's as soon as you do the prompt, there's when the prompt ends. I'll kind of look at like all the different possible triggers for a hook. But the cool thing about a hook is that you can like set automatic actions for Claude to take when you're at some point in that life cycle of when you give it a request. So here we're just going to do a really basic example. What we'll do, and this one's actually very fun, is we're going to create a hook that gives us a notification and a sound as soon as it finishes an action. So what that's useful is like, I'm gonna have it create a presentation next, and presentations take quite a long time to make. And let's say I don't wanna just like sit there, or even within this demo, I think if you're following along, there's a couple times that I was like, oh, we'll come back to that terminal. And then I actually forgot. And that's because there's no notification, right? There's no way to tell. So we're gonna actually create a hook that gives us a notification. And it's really easy to do. All we're gonna do is we're just gonna say, create a hook that makes a Mac notification, and we'll say sound as well, when you finish a task. And Claude kind of knows how to create its own hooks. Oh, actually, it's gonna be smart, and it's gonna look up when it doesn't know how to make a hook. So it's looking it up. What's cool is I think because we have the plugin for the Anthropic plugin, it like fetched from its own documentation without actually having to do a search, which is kind of like another cool thing that it's just very smart around knowing where to look for this stuff. Okay, so it's seeing if there's a settings file. So while this is happening, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I have kind of made this little graphic around all the different places that you can have a hook. Okay, so within Claude Code hooks, there's like a bunch of different ones, and I'll cover like a couple examples where you might want to use this. Like as Claude works, it does like a ton of stuff. So there's like when you start a session, you could have a hook that says, hey, well, as soon as you start a session, pull in all linear tickets for this project. And that might be helpful if you have like a specific repo that is just around managing tickets, or like a subfolder. Then as soon as you start, it pulls in those tickets. Or as soon as the session is over, or right before it uses a tool, or right after it uses a tool, you might want to have like another agent, or if it's like a specific tool around writing a document, you might have another agent that triggers as a hook right after it does that, so that it can review that work. Or let's say you have like a long run coding task, then you might have something where every time it finishes writing some code, it also runs the test suite against that code. So these are very advanced, and like I don't think they're definitely kind of mostly more for coding use cases, but if you're creative, then there's like sort of some really interesting things that you can do with hooks. Another good one is like, so when you use Claude Code for a long time, eventually it will compact, and you'll kind of like lose all the session history before, and it can be kind of actually hard to get back to unless you are like, Claude will literally clear it from the UI. So one thing that you could do is you could say, every time before you're going to compact the conversation, I want you to automatically export it and put it into, a folder as a markdown file, so that if it messes something up after it compacts, you can still get back to that conversation history before it did the compaction.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So these are definitely this is like real advanced, and I haven't used these too much, but it's kind of like a good feature to know. And I think that there'll be some like really interesting setups with these hooks if you're like really trying to create like a very tightly controlled Claude Code session. Okay, cool. So let's test this. Now, anytime it finishes a task, which is really like anytime it finishes any sort of like message, it should make a notification. So let's see if it works. Oh my gosh, man, Claude is not helping me today. Sometimes live demos. I tested this before and it worked, and then now I'm not.
That's the fun.
Yeah, that's the fun. Okay, we're gonna resume that session. We're gonna do some live debugging here. So let's resume that previous session, and it's saying that it already created. So let's tell it to delete that. Okay, so while that's happening, we're gonna do some classic Claude stuff. We're gonna go back to our other PRD that we had written, which is here. So we can just give it the name of this. So please create a presentation. So this is going to use the presentation skill, using your presentation skill for PRD in Google. And then we know use my email. Okay. So one thing, as you use Claude, you kind of want to get very comfortable just jumping between sessions as it works, because there is always a little bit of downtime between them. So it's going to pull in that PRD. Actually, it says it found it locally, but it also found it through MCP. And then it will create a presentation. So we'll come back to this, and then let's see what's happening with our hooks.
Claude deleted. So now we'll ask it to recreate.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll restart Claude, see if this helps.
So that what you're doing quickly is you're just doing Control-C up.
Yes. Okay, so now we're gonna give Claude another chance here. We'll see, it's gonna look it up again and then it will create it. And then let's see if this other one, okay, perfect. So this time it looks like it is figuring it out. So it knows that there we go. So it actually did use this skill. So this is the first time in this demo we've seen it sort of show a skill correctly. And so I think your tip of saying to just use this skill is probably the best way to use it for now. And so it'll look like this. It's just looking the / document skills PowerPoint. And now I have pretty good confidence that we'll actually do it correctly because we know it's actually like in that skill and reading the instructions. And so now it's creating the slides using its own thing. And it starts that as an HTML and then it converts it into a PowerPoint. Okay, and now it's going. And what it's doing here, it's kind of cool, classic, like kind of Claude Code stuff, is we see that it is intelligently starting like multiple sessions for each slide instead of working on all of them sort of in sequence. It's figuring out how to start them all in parallel. So we're seeing some of that nice sub-agent features here.
Today's episode is brought to you by Amplitude. Replays of mobile user engagement are critical to building better products and experiences, but many session replay tools don't capture the full picture. Some tools take screenshots every second, leading to choppy replays and high storage costs from enormous capture sizes. Others use wireframes, but key moments go missing, creating gaps in your understanding. Neither approach gives you a truly mobile experience. Amplitude does things differently. Their mobile replays capture the full experience. Every tap, every scroll, and every gesture, with no lag and no performance hit. It's the most accurate way to understand mobile behavior. See the full story with Amplitude. I hope you enjoyed that short clip. You can check out the full episode here.